As the Mueller special counsel assigned to investigate possible collusion between the Trump administration and Russia reached its first-year anniversary with little to no results, calls for a second special counsel to investigate Hillary Clinton have largely been ignored by the government and the media. Instead of a second special counsel, in March of this year, Attorney General Jeff Sessions appointed Utah's top federal prosecutor to work in conjunction with the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz to investigate a multitude of accusations of FBI misconduct surrounding the 2016 U.S. presidential election. The most notable difference between a special counsel and appointing a prosecutor is the investigation will be considerably limited by comparison. For example, the IG's office does not have the authority to compel witnesses for interviews, so its investigation will be limited in scope and will remain under the DOJ's roof and out of the hands of an independent investigator. Now remember, this investigation is meant to determine whether or not the DOJ and/or the FBI broke the law while handling the Clinton email investigation. So naturally, many would find it hard to have any faith in the DOJ essentially investigating itself. Although there is a chance this may actually be a legitimate investigation, considering the Inspector General Horowitz isn't exactly friends with the Clintons, like his former colleagues, the Attorney Generals Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder, or the former FBI directors Robert Mueller, James Comey, and Andrew McCabe. In fact, Horowitz went to war with the Obama administration after the Office of Inspector General's investigative powers were removed during the Fast and Furious scandal, which essentially crippled the OIG throughout the Obama presidency and limited its authority. After several failed attempts, Horowitz was able to roll back the restrictions made by Eric Holder and restore the OIG's authority at the end of Obama's term. And now the DOJ's internal watchdog, the OIG's report, has been completed and submitted for review. Now remember, this investigation was limited and only focused on the DOJ's and FBI's handling of the Clinton email scandal, which includes the nearly $750,000 campaign contribution from longtime Clinton ally Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe to Andrew McCabe's wife, while Andrew McCabe was overseeing the Clinton investigation and then later became the acting director of the FBI. But this could be a pivotal step which could lead to an independent special counsel being appointed, as the IG report allegedly found that the Department of Justice and the FBI were in violation of the law, which benefited Hillary Clinton. Now, criminal charges are a possibility, but they're not guaranteed. If the Department of Justice does not appoint a special counsel to investigate themselves, which of course is very unlikely, Congress could potentially use this report as ammunition to go through the process to appoint a special counsel, which would be a major game changer, and then the investigation would not be limited and could potentially include many of the Clinton scandals and everyone involved, including the Clinton Foundation scandal, the Uranium One scandal, the Fusion GPS scandal, people like Loretta Lynch, James Comey, and a list that is too long to mention here. Now, this is where things get interesting for those watching and dangerous for those involved. We will be keeping an eye on this major developing story and keep you up to date here at Newsbud.com. Now, Newsbud is 100% independent and 100% people funded. We rely on your subscriptions and donations to keep this site running. A subscription costs practically nothing and will provide you with instant access to hundreds of exclusive articles and videos. Let's take a quick look at what Newsbud members got just in the last week for their monthly subscriptions. This week, our Russia expert exposes the Western influence driving a wedge between Russia and China. Our China expert breaks down the latest on North Korea, and our financial expert deconstructs U.S. economic warfare. But first, this week, Newsbud published an exclusive report from one of our military veteran analysts, Christian Sorensen. In this one-of-a-kind report, Newsbud documents the war industry trends for April 2018. This is the most comprehensive and up-to-date report and analysis of the military-industrial complex. As Sorensen puts it, the U.S. military already has enough firepower to destroy all of life on Earth many times over. But because war is a racket, corporations are constantly researching new ways to destroy the latest enemy of the day, squandering tax dollars to develop redundant weaponry instead of caring for the people is the defining characteristic of the U.S. war industry. The full report is exclusively available for members at Newsbud.com. Recently, former President Barack Obama said he wanted to create 1 million more young Obamas to carry out his legacy, which is actually a very scary thought when you consider what Obama's legacy actually is, and not the fairy tales packaged for mass consumption. This week on Newsbud's Geopolitical Report, Kurt Nimmo deconstructs the actual legacy of Barack Obama. And it's chilling to relive those 8 years, but it serves as an important reminder to us all how so many were so duped for so long, and how history not only repeats itself, but each administration is actually getting worse than the previous one.
If we take him at his word, Obama wants to create 1 million war criminals to follow in his bloody footsteps. Where to begin? First, recall his election promise to end the wars and bring the troops home. A promise he said Americans could take to the bank.
I will promise you this, that if we have not gotten our troops out by the time I am president, it is the first thing I will do. I will get our troops home. We will bring an end to this war. You can take that to the bank.
During his reign, Obama promised on numerous occasions to end the war in Afghanistan. He made the bogus promise again during the 2014 election. The establishment media didn't call him out on these lies, something you'd expect them to do as the self-proclaimed defenders of democracy, instead of what they really are, stenographers for a pathocracy.
The full report is exclusively available at newsbud.com for members. Non-members can watch and share at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. In this week's edition of Newsbud's Russian Newspaper Monitor, Professor Kovacevic covers a historic Russian oil deal and how the West was able to use its influence to make sure China was pushed out of the deal. Professor Kovacevic breaks down how and why the West will do everything in its power to prevent a Russia and China alliance.
In other words, the newspaper's pro-Western editors cannot hide their glee that Sechin, a good friend of Putin, was made to look short-sighted and foolish, thanks to the covert machinations of the Western oil tycoons.
Plus, the professor analyzes Putin's inauguration speech and his new government after his landslide win for re-election as the Russian president, and why some Putin supporters are already upset as the West continues its destabilization efforts, and much more. The full report is exclusively available for members at newsbud.com. Non-members can watch and share at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. This week on Newsbud's China Watch, Peter Lee breaks down the latest on North Korea as the corporate media continues to keep everyone uninformed and confused. Plus, the big story in Asia as the US and China are not only in a trade war, but a tech war, as a major Chinese telecom was just crushed by the United States. Now, many people, especially Americans, may be wondering why this is important and who cares. Well, Peter Lee does a great job explaining the bigger picture, as there are dueling strategies at play which actually will have a major impact on Iran, the European Union, and the world for that matter.
China threw Iran halfway under the bus. Obama got a reasonably robust sanctions regime with Chinese and EU backing. Iran accepted a bunch of restrictions, and we got JCPOA. Now it's rinse and repeat time, except that Trump hopes to screw China harder and get an Iran deal more to his liking, or maybe no deal at all, but China and Iran crippled by sanctions. So here's what I think. Instead of Obama-style nudging and legislating to pressure China on Iran, Trump does what Trump does. He takes a hostage. ZTE. If Xi Jinping wants ZTE back, he's got to play ball with Trump on Iran. Limits on backfilling, limits on purchases of Iran energy, limits on taking advantage of the European Union. And with the China factor neutralized, the EU has little reason not to cave to Trump. It's dodging confrontation with its biggest trading partner, that's the United States. It's getting enough carve-outs to keep its corporations quiet. China's on a leash, and all the European Union has to do is screw Iran.
Now, if you really want to understand the battle for Asia and how China, Iran, and the Koreas are trying to prevent U.S. hegemony, then you need to see Newsbud's China Watch. This episode and all of Newsbud's latest can be seen right now by subscribing members. If you're not a member, you can watch and share at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. This week, Newsbud's financial expert Pi Ian delivers an in-depth report on the U.S. economic warfare, mainly targeting China, and how China is responding, and what the results will likely be, as the U.S. appears to be in its final days of its hegemonic status. Newsbud's financial expert breaks down the nuts and bolts, as well as on a metaphysical and esoteric level. Now, this is must-see financial news and analysis you will not see on the corporate financial sites, which cater to Wall Street and the establishment. The full report is available right now for members at newsbud.com. Non-members, Newsbud Vimeo On Demand is your ticket. Now, Newsbud also offers our own aggregated news, and it's called Sibel's Picks. It's the best source for aggregated news online. Newsbud's founder and editor Sibel Edmonds handpicks each story herself. Now, if you're not a member yet, why not join today and give us a shot? There is zero obligation or contracts. It costs practically nothing. Plus, your subscription allows this independent news organization that was founded by FBI whistleblower and award-winning activist Sibel Edmonds to continue to operate. Plus, instant access to hundreds of videos and articles exclusively at newsbud.com. For all of us here at Newsbud, thank you for your support and stay tuned for next week's lineup.